Hello there. Welcome to Dive in the Scriptures. Welcome to Dive in the Scriptures. Today, we are still looking at suffering. But before we dive in, I want to thank you for taking time to watch these videos. I want to thank you for sharing these videos. I want to thank you for subscribing. I believe that you and we are partners in spreading the gospel. Hey, today we are John 16, verse 33. Now, if you look at the other part of that particular verse, okay, Jesus Christ says, I have overcome the world, which means that when we go through suffering, we can go through suffering either as overcomers, or we can go through suffering as people that are thinking in defeat. When we think in defeat, we hurt ourselves. It means we're not suffering well. When we think in victory, walk by faith according to the truth, the reality of God, you and we will suffer well. And ultimately, whatever we are going through will serve God's purpose. And that means that it will serve God's purpose of helping you to grow, helping you to mature, helping you to be a help of other people, preparing you for the unknown. And this is the power of being a Christian. So now, moving forward, there are two questions that you and we should be aware of. One, we should pick it. The other one, we should leave it. Okay? Because the other one is not good for us, but the other is good for us. So let me talk about the one which is not good for you. When you go through suffering, never ask why. Okay? Why me? Never ask why me. Why? Because nothing is about you. Everything is about God in your life. So why should you ask why me? Okay? Never ask a question of why me. It is not fair. When you do that, you will not suffer well. You will be negative. You will be saying, I don't deserve to go through this. It's not fair. God, I'm a good person. God, I'm up in the church. God, I was a missionary in such a place or such a place. God, I don't deserve this. I deserve better. When you do that, you will become negative. Numbers chapter 14, verse 2, the children of Israel, they came out of Egypt. And when they came out of Egypt, they were in the wilderness. And in the wilderness, they failed to suffer well. Why? Because they were asking the wrong question. And all because they were looking at a man. And most of us, when we look at situations that are bad, we're always looking for who to blame. And they looked at Moses and they were negative towards God indirectly because they were negative towards Moses. And we know the end result. They never entered the promised land. They never suffered well, and they died in misery. And interestingly, it happens even today. We go to church. Is the message in the church preparing you to suffer well? Is the message in the church preparing you to live a life despite of having personal weaknesses? Is the message preparing you on how you can overcome those things that are personally draining you down? So, the second question is the good question that you and me as born-again believers should ask. The question is, how is this a preparation, God? How are you using this situation to prepare me? How are you using this situation to grow me? How are you using this situation that I'm going through, which is not good, okay, to prepare me for the things I don't know? How is this? How is this beneficial to my life? God, help me. When you ask that question, what you're doing is you're engaging God. Proverbs 3 verse 5, you're not leaning on your own narration of the situation or your own or other people's narration of the situation, but you are depending on God. And what you're doing is you're ushering in God's opportunity and God's purpose for you to experience what Christ meant when he says, I have overcome the world. Christ says, I have overcome the world. Why did he say that? To mean that everything that happens in your life, like it did with Joseph in Genesis 50:20. Okay? Like Paul says it in Romans 8:29. Everything that happens in your life is to serve the purpose of God. And the purpose of God is always good. The situation may not be good, but remember, God always uses situation for his good. And God wants to do good in your life. God wants to do a work that is good in your life. Philippians 1:6. He who began a good work in you is faithful to complete it. And therefore, how are we going to allow God to do the good thing? Well, we ask the right question. We ask the right question. And the answer will not be given to you immediately. But I guarantee you, one day you will look back and realize, I went through this, but the ultimate purpose was God preparing me for this. And one day you'll be thankful. You'll say, God, if I never went through this, if I never met these kind of people or that kind of a person, I would not have grown. But I'm grown and I'm growing. Why? Because of the things that you had allowed and you did in my life. And this is the power of learning to ask the right question. Hey, when Jesus Christ was on the cross, he asked, Father, why have you forsaken me? Now, if you notice, Christ is not asking man why, he's asking God why, because the why is known by God. God the Father planned that his son would go through what he went through. And when Christ is asking why, he's asking the one who knows the why. And also, the Son did the work of saving us. And therefore, the why is that his Son has to suffer. Why? Because he has to die, and by dying and shedding his blood, he's paying for the sins of the world. There is your why. It has been answered. And we see Christ resurrecting. And today you and I, if we put our faith in what Jesus Christ did on the cross and who he is, we become born again. Christ suffered why? So you can be saved. Christ suffered why? So that you should not be judged. Christ suffered why? So that you should not experience eternal condemnation. And this is you, and this is me. We are so privileged. But Christ had to suffer. Salvation was not cheap. Christ had to suffer. It costed him his life. And he resurrected so that you and I can be born again. There is your why from God. You can trust him for the why of today. Hey, thanks again for watching. This has been Dive in the Scriptures. On the screen, there's the name of our church. And also there's a phone line. If there's any way we can serve you, call us. For those of you that have subscribed, maybe some of you are in our ministry. In this age of technology, social media, WhatsApp, and many other forms of communicating, let's use them to share these links to encourage somebody. You never know what you're doing just by sharing this link of Dive in the Scriptures. You're rescuing somebody from making a horrible decision of their life. Hey, thanks again for listening. Let's keep diving in. Remember, as we dive in, we grow in thinking with God, and we learn to ask the right why. Thanks again. God bless you.